do it again.
Good evening and welcome to the June 12th, 2019 meeting of the San Francisco Board of Appeals. President Rick Swig will be the presiding officer tonight. He's joined by Commissioner Ann Lazarus, Commissioner Darrell Honda, and Commissioner Rachel Tanner. We are now moving on to item numbers 5A and 5B. They shall be heard together. And these are appeal numbers 19-036 and 19-037. Eliza Nemzer and Francis DePendal versus San Francisco Public Works, Bureau of Street Use and Mapping. So we will hear from the appellants first. Each appellant gets 7 minutes, and the permit holder will get 14 minutes, given that they are responding to 2 appellants. And we will also hear from the department representative. So Ms. Nemzer, did you want to go first? Okay, so you have 7 minutes.
Good evening and welcome.
Hi. I stand here today to appeal the March 2019 approval of a personal wireless service facility site permit at 2 Grattan Street because the proposed facility does not satisfy the Tier 2 compatibility standard. The permit was originally denied for that reason based on a determination in March 2018 by the Planning Department that recommended disapproval, and no relevant modifications were made prior to a revised recommendation by the Planning Department to approve the permit in July 2018. At the outset, I would like to state that I am not a professional paid attorney. I am a PhD geoscientist and a concerned citizen. I will make one statement about the public health aspect of this issue. I understand that you have to look to the FCC for health compliance standards. My argument is that the FCC is doing you a disservice because they have not provided updated standards that are relevant to 4G technology. I reject the use of the demeaning term frivolous, used not once but twice by Verizon attorneys to characterize my valid and truth-based argument that the current FCC guidelines were established in 1996 before the development of 4G technology, and therefore there are no existing health protective FCC guidelines that pertain to 4G technology. In fact, in the Department of Public Works brief, they admitted the FCC standards are outdated. Wireless antennas unquestionably pose a non-zero increase in radiation exposure and a non-zero increase in cancer risk. That is, they unquestionably pose some incremental increase in that risk. The size of the increment is not well understood. I'm pointing out to you that these 4G siting determinations are made according to health and safety standards that are not relevant to 4G technology. And the fact that, as pointed out by the Verizon attorneys, these standards have been applied to 4G facilities for many years does not make them any more relevant or health protective. With that said, I will spend the majority of my time addressing the noncompliance with the Tier 2 compatibility standard and making the case that the approval of this permit should be overturned. The March 2018 determination by the Planning Department raised 3 points of noncompliance. The height. I quote, "The addition of 10 feet to the existing 30-foot pole adds unnecessary height in an area where the surrounding buildings are approximately 30 feet tall. The determination was made based on architectural plans and photo sims dated February 2018. There. You can see the top of the antenna is 40 feet. On page 4 of the Department of Public Works brief, they state, I quote, "The Planning Department initially recommended disapproval of the application because in its initial plans, Verizon indicated the pole would be at a height of 42 feet 2 inches, and they reference Verizon wireless plans dated August 2017. And then they go on to say that the Planning Department recommended that the Public Works Department disapprove the application, and thereafter, Verizon Wireless amended its plans to reduce the height from 42 feet 2 inches to 40 feet. And then they reference Verizon Wireless plans dated June 2018. This statement is erroneous and misleading. The designed reduction in height from 42 feet 2 inches to 20 feet, in fact, took place before February 2018, prior to both the initial disapproval and the subsequent approval of this permit. To be clear, the March 2018 planning determination recommended disapproval referencing architectural plans dated February 2018, showing the 40-inch in height. And the July 2018 determination recommended approval based on architectural plans dated June 2018 that also show this unchanged height of 40 feet. I might have said inches before. I meant 40 feet. The height of the antenna didn't change an inch, only the language describing the surrounding buildings relative to the antenna, which went from, quote, the surrounding buildings are approximately 30 feet tall to, quote, structures usually do not exceed 40 feet in height. I will also note that for some reason, and I think an error, on page 9 of the Department of Public Works brief, they state that the height of the antenna will in fact be 38 feet, though there are no plans referenced whatsoever showing a height of 38 feet. I think it was an error. The March 2018 determination also recommended disapproval based on, quote, the size of the pole-mounted equipment increases the distracting and cluttering elements of the pole. I will show a comparison between the disapproved and approved architectural plans dated February 2018 and June 2018, respectively, and you can see that there was no change whatsoever with respect to streamlining the distracting and cluttering elements. Finally, the March 2018 determination recommended disapproval based on the fact that, quote, the proposed facility would significantly detract from any of the defining characteristics of the RH2 district. The pole itself isn't a historic resource, but actually the building adjacent at 2 Grattan Street is a historic resource. But of crucial importance here, the Verizon attorney in their brief grossly mischaracterized the distance along Belvedere Street from where the facility would be visible, stating, I quote, the facility is set back from the corner of Belvedere Street and thus only visible for a few feet along Belvedere Street. I'm going to close by showing you a video that shows that the pole is in fact visible along 180 feet of Belvedere Street. There's a big difference between a few feet and 180 feet.
Hold on 1 second. He's calling the IT.
Stop your time, please.
Can you stop? Thank you so much. Alternatively, maybe I can do this. Let me try this. Hi, so I am here on Belvedere Street.
That's fine.
I am south of the intersection with Grattan Street, and I'm standing in front of the address 466468 Belvedere Street. And from where I'm standing, I can see the pole. And I delineated here on the sidewalk where I can start seeing
time,
the pole
Gary.
as I walk north. And with my tape measure, I measured the distance over which I can still see the pole as I walk north along Belvedere. So let's do that. So I'm still walking along Belvedere with a clear view of the pole. I measured a total of 180 feet along Belvedere Street. From which I can see the pole in clear view. Still walking along Belvedere Street. I'm at the intersection with Grattan. I'm now north of the intersection. I'm still in full view of the pole. I can still see the pole. Surely when that tree drops his leaves, that pole is still clearly visible
Ma'am,
up until about
your
here.
time is up.
And
You'll have time in
delineated a
rebuttal,
spot
so
on
if
the
you could
side
stop the
here.
video, please. Thank you. We will now hear from the next appellant, Ms. DePendal.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Frances Deppendahl.
I'm sorry.
Also, a clarification for the record. Certainly. Is this better?
Want to hear every word you say.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
There is an omission in the brief for appeal number 19037 submitted on May 23rd, 2019. On page 6, line 11 of the text, the number 456 was omitted and should be inserted between the numbers 444 and 460. This omission was an unintentional oversight. This appeal is submitted on behalf of the neighbors and friends of 2 Grattan Street to respectfully request that the San Francisco Board of Appeals deny permit number 17WR 0285 due to the significant negative impact the personal wireless service facility installation will have on the character and aesthetics of the neighborhood. Grattan Street is a main walking pathway to a public school in the next block and the Coal Valley retail and transit hub from Ashbury Heights. The accessible street grade, low-traffic street without buses, sunny, treeless open space serves as a front yard to locals of all ages at all times of the day and night. The proposed facility site on an existing wooden utility pole and an addition of a tree in the public right-of-way adjacent to 2 Grattan Street will diminish and obstruct the views from or light into the windows of the 4 residences adjacent to the site, as well as from the public rights-of-way, and it will diminish the views of 7 residences immediately surrounding and facing the proposed site at the T intersection of Grattan and Belvedere Streets. Specifically, this impacts street views of Mount Olympus, Mount Sutro, the interior Greenbelt, Parnassus Heights. The proposed facility, with the support equipment boxes hanging from the existing pole, the pole extension and antenna per the architectural plans dated June 19, 2018, Plan A3, A4, and referenced in the July 2, 2018 approval with conditions from the Planning Department, will add unsightly clutter to the T intersection of Grattan and Belvedere Streets. After significant time, energy, goodwill, and financial resources have gone into neighborhood beautification projects led by neighborhood residents since the early 1980s. These included undergrounding the utilities and adding vintage street light poles. This created an open space which is used for neighborhood socialization and community interaction, such as the annual Belvedere Street Halloween Party. The existing pole is 30 feet in height and has no equipment boxes hanging from it or around it. Per the architectural plans IBID, the equipment boxes will be mounted on the pole 7 feet from the sidewalk base to the height of 18 feet, or a total of 11 feet of equipment. The equipment boxes will be up to 14 inches wide and 8 inches deep. As the pole is on a slope downhill approximately 30 feet 11 inches from the vintage street light pole on the adjacent Grattan Street corner, the equipment boxes will be in direct eye sightline view for pedestrians in the public rights-of-way along Grattan Street and the T intersection with Belvedere, and the residents in the 4 units at 2 Grattan Street. Residents in 3 of the 4 units both live and work in their units and will have to look at the equipment night and day. Existing installation at Frederick and Willard, we submit to the board that installation of the same or similar equipment to the 2 Grattan Street location would degrade the efforts, time, and resources that the Coal Valley neighborhood of Belvedere and Grattan Streets has spent to beautify and enhance the unique characteristics of the neighborhood. We submit to the board that this does not meet the standards of sleek, well-designed, and unobtrusive, and will have significant negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. This is one of 2 photo sims that was distributed by the Verizon CBR group in December 2018 and again in March, April 2019. This is an enlargement from the same item, and you will see the equipment boxes along the pole. The proposed facility, which will rise 40 feet tall, which will hover over the mainly 3-story, 30-foot tall neighborhood buildings, many of which are classic Edwardian-era residents over 100 years old, will lower property values in the surrounding neighborhood. This is a picture of the square that is public square in the neighborhood. And here is a picture of the Grattan-Belvedere intersection and one of the events that is held there. The city has the legal right to deny permits based on aesthetics based on the April 2019 California Supreme Court decision, and clearly the Verizon personal wireless service facility as currently designed for 2 Grattan Street, as shown in the photo simulations, will significantly detract from the defining characteristics of this Tier B zoning and/or a planning protected location. detract and degrade the street views from the public rights-of-way, and negatively impact our public open space, not in keeping with DPW Order Number 184504, Regulations Implementing Requirements of San Francisco Public Works Code, Article 25. This site is located within the RH2 district, residential house, 2 families. We hold that the facility does not meet the requirements of policy 4.14 under the objective 4 of the general plan compliance 1 urban design element, which states remove and obscure distracting and cluttering elements. The entire facility itself is distracting and cluttering. The proposed Tier B facility is to be located in the public right-of-way in a residential zoning protected location, RH2, adjacent to 2 Grattan Street, on a street with average street views. Per an email communication this week with the principal planner and urban designer, City Design Group, Citywide Planning Division, and the Planning Department, Nicholas Perry, the quality of street views map dates from the original urban design element, which was drafted in the late 1960s and adopted in 1971. As far as it is known today, the map has not been updated since it was originally created. So the map does not take into consideration neighborhood beautification projects in the early 1980s. The Belvedere projects in Belvedere Grattan Streets should be recognized today and not penalized by an out-of-date classification.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
4G, 5G.
We will now.
When this technology was developed in 1996, it was only 2G and 3G. So how can you say that, or how is it determined that it's 4G and it's still compatible when there's no new testing that's been done?
Sure, and the Gs are technologies. So you have radio frequencies that you send a mobile phone call over. So 1G was analog, 1 call per frequency. 2G was something called TDMA, or time delay. So it's same frequency, same radio frequency, but the call is every 3rd bit, and they're able to code the call, and then your phone is able to pick up every 3rd bit, so they're able to get 3 calls per frequency. 3G moved into CDMA, which is code division access, mobile access, and that started with 20 calls per frequency because they use digital technology. 4G LTE service is a form of CDMA, but a form of code division that allows multiple sites to carry the same call on a phone call. 5G is just another technology to use radio frequencies, the same radio frequencies, to aggregate the amount of bands that can be sent and received at the same time, number of frequencies. It's called multiple in, multiple out, and that can accelerate by a factor of 10. Each time we are increasing by almost a factor of 10. The data throughput and the voice clarity and the latency, which is the amount of time that the signal has to go and come back. But the frequency that 5G, Verizon and AT&T bought 23 gigahertz frequency. It's not in use right now for mobile service, but it's the same frequency that's been used for a long time for microwave point-to-point shots and any number of uses, millimeter wave frequency. And so that millimeter wave frequency already has established exposure guidelines. And those established exposure guidelines go all the way back to 1996. So the Gs are technologies. So Sprint and T-Mobile will use traditional cellular frequencies for 5G, whereas AT&T and Verizon have purchased these new frequencies in order to provide the 5G. And we have to buy whatever frequencies the FCC will sell us.
That's why all the other phone companies have your old lines.
Have their what?
That's why like Sprint and the other companies are using your previous lines or the previous technology. Is that correct?
Well, no. In all fairness, T-Mobile will have a 5G. They're going to run it on 600 megahertz frequency, which is a long-established.
Well, you're pretty good at this. So the other question is
and then Sprint will use 2.6 gigahertz, which is the AWS frequency.
So if there's constant checking on it, why isn't there an updated report since 1996?
Well, again, the FCC adopted the standard, and they adopted a standard based on studies done by the AIEEE and the NCRS. And So because the FCC, and then those standards were also reviewed by EPA and OSHA for health reasons, because FCC and FTC.
No,
because,
Counselor, I understand that, but I
Yeah.
mean, we understand that a 2020 new car probably has more technology and hopefully is more safer than something from 1996, but yet EPA, DOT still tests them regularly and gives out new reports.
Right. So what I'm trying to tell you is the FCC has an open information here docket right now on the exposure limits, but the standards themselves, they're not reviewed by FCC because they don't really have scientists. They're using the AIEEE, which is the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, to review the standard. And the AIEEE just reviewed the standard one more time, and it came out in March, and they confirmed the existing standard. So the standard itself continues to be regularly reviewed. You know, actually, I've got Daniel.
No, you actually did
Okay.
better than your technology guys, so I got it. Thank you very much, Counselor. Thank you.
I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate your interest.
I got a lesson today. It's all good.
So
Thank
Commissioners,
you.
this matter is submitted.
Okay, any further comments from the commission? We dealt with the physical aspects of the neighborhood. We dealt with the physical aspects of the pieces of equipment. Any questions from or further comment on the issues related to
No,
the technology and the health issue, which was a key portion of?
I just think that we're looking potentially to continue this. I just want to make sure that both parties understand the information we're looking for so that we are able to make a decision.
One thing that I think we didn't comment on was around the historic nature. I know you put that on your list of things to look at, Mr. Santos, so just understanding the interplay of the historic eligibility of the Coal Valley neighborhood and kind of how that interacts with this decision.
Okay. So what I'd like to do, the reason I bring it up is I'd support a continuance for the things that we discussed.
How much time would you need, Mr. Sanchez?
I mean, I know the board, I think, doesn't have that many hearings left between now and there's July 17th, there's the 26th, there's next week. Actually, I will not be here next week. Mr. Teague will be here next week. But if there's room on the 26th, I guess, the following Wednesday, we certainly could follow up.
Yeah, that would
We
work.
could put you in there.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to do is keep it tight to that specific element and take the technology piece off for the health piece off, since it has not been a hefty discussion. Let me comment on the health piece, okay? Sometimes I wonder, and I'm looking at the appellant for those who are not looking at me on TV, we hear these same comments ad nauseum, and I think all of us sit here not as scientists and question everything that the appellant was questioning tonight. We've had like yourself, we have had PhDs who have stood in front of us and gone chapter and verse and been as convincing as Mr. Albritton. And been as convincing as others like him who come up in front of us, and sometimes I wonder if they're, sorry, Mr. Albritton, this is not directed at you, but if their daughters were living 12 feet away from the equipment, whether they would have the same point of view. But we can't control this because there are laws in place, and until the public feels that they can put enough pressure on the senators and congressmen and assemblymen and state senators who put this stuff in place and can rise above the lobbying organizations like the IIEE, then we're going to have these laws, and we will have Article 25, and it is our job. We cannot reinvent the law, and so that's kind of the shared frustration that some of us have here, and shared fear. I never like to treat it lightly, and I want to reaffirm that when I say we have to resolve the technology issue tonight and not deal with it next time, it's because we really can't rise above what has been stated for us as the law, Article 25, the findings of the FCC. So, go to work I invite the public to go to work and get it changed if you feel like you need to get it changed.
Continuance, let's we'll make a motion.
There's no further comment at this point. The matter's been
So
submitted.
it's not going to be an issue. So we have a
Motion to
motion
continue?
for a continuance.